Beneath the blazing midday sun, the Red Sea shimmered with deceptive calm. Cargo vessels traced their usual routes, flanked by coalition escorts and constantly watched by the unseen eyes of global surveillance. But deep beneath those waves, a different kind of mission was unfolding, one defined by silence, patience, and absolute precision. Commander Nathan Hale stood at the helm of the USS Virginia, a fast-attack submarine nestled silently in the blue-black depths. His eyes moved methodically over the glowing displays, every flicker of light telling a story above them. Hale had spent 20 years beneath the surface, operating in a world most never saw and even fewer understood. Today felt different. The intelligence reports over the past 48 hours had traced suspicious Houthi drone movements, and there was chatter, intercepted and decoded, suggesting they were preparing to strike something big. They believed they had found a vulnerable target, something valuable drifting through the Red Sea, ripe for attack. The irony, of course, was that they were dead wrong. What they thought was a sluggish cargo vessel transmitting odd heat signatures was actually bait, a misdirecting decoy coordinated between U.S. naval intelligence and regional allies. It floated deliberately off course, carrying only ballast and sensors. The real weapon, the silent predator, was Hale's submarine, now lying in wait, 30 nautical miles south of the Yemeni coast. His mission was to observe, intercept, and, if necessary, retaliate with swift, undeniable force. In a dusty Houthi outpost perched inland, far from the reach of satellites, Commander Tariq al-Hamzi pored over grainy infrared images with fervent excitement. His sources, smugglers and local fishermen loyal to the militia, had reported an unusual vessel lingering in contested waters. Combined with their own drone footage, the image was clear enough: a high-value ship, slow and minimally protected. This, he believed, was their chance to deliver a blow that would echo beyond Yemen's borders. He envisioned headlines, morale boosts, a strike against American arrogance. Orders were issued. An armed drone was fueled and launched, flanked by 2 explosive-laden fast boats positioned to intercept the ship. Back aboard the USS Virginia, sonar technician Petty Officer Marissa Lynn noticed the faint, unnatural whine. Her fingers danced across her station. "Captain, I've got a contact," she said, voice controlled but sharp. "Bearing 270, shallow and fast. Possibly an unmanned surface vehicle, closing quickly." Hale leaned in, eyes narrowing. "Get me visual confirmation from the drone relay. I want eyes in 5. Above them, flying at 30,000 feet, a U.S. Navy MQ-9 Reaper scanned the area with ruthless efficiency. The false cargo ship's sensors picked up the threat a full minute before the drone's thermal lens caught it. On screen, the hostile drone buzzed low over the decoy, followed by the blips of 2 smaller boats cutting hard across the sea toward the false target. "They've taken the bait," said Hale, voice low. The room seemed to hold its breath. But this wasn't a straightforward mission. Rules of engagement in international waters demanded restraint. Hale had to let the Houthis reveal intent before striking. The submarine remained hidden, the hum of its systems barely perceptible as it adjusted its position a few meters upward, nose angled toward the surface like a shark tasting blood. The Houthi boats drew nearer to the decoy. One veered starboard, attempting a flanking maneuver, while the other pressed straight on. From the Reaper's feed, Commander Hale could now see what he needed: mounted weapons, exposed payloads, movement patterns unmistakably aggressive. That was the green light. "Permission to engage," Hale said into the encrypted link. Seconds later, the response came. "Confirmed. Engage hostiles. Neutralize with minimal surface exposure." "Load tube 3, he said calmly. Inside the torpedo bay, machinery clanked as a Mark 48 ADCAP slid into place. It was built for this exact kind of confrontation, silent, lethal, and surgically precise. Hale gave the order, and the submarine released its fury. The torpedo slid into the water with a gentle splash miles away from human ears, then activated, locking onto the louder of the two fast boats. A minute later, the Reaper feed flared with a burst of fire and spray. One of the boats had vanished from the screen, vaporized before it had ever gotten within striking distance. The second, in a panic, turned hard, racing away toward friendly waters. But now it was being tracked from above and below. Inside the Houthi operations center, chaos erupted. Screens flickered. Al-Hamzi yelled for confirmation. Had they hit the target? No one knew. But the feed from the attacking drone had gone dark. The fast boats weren't responding. Something was wrong. The silence wasn't victory. It was a warning. The USS Virginia maintained its position. No celebration. No sudden movement. Hale knew that this wasn't over. The point wasn't to start a war. It was to end an illusion that the Red Sea could be used to score political points with reckless attacks. He turned to Lynn. "Hold station. Let's see who wants to come clean up the mess." The waters were still again, but the message had been sent. Beneath the surface, the U.S. Navy was always listening, always ready. And above the waves, someone had just made a terrible mistake. The wreckage drifted in silence, bobbing gently with the current. A stark reminder of how quickly control could shift in open waters. Commander Hale remained poised, not for victory, but for the uncertainty that always followed a clean strike. A Mark 48 never missed without reason, and it had done its job. But war beneath the sea wasn't measured in explosions. It was gauged in what followed: the reaction, the pursuit, and sometimes the retaliation. Aboard the USS Virginia, the atmosphere was calm, calculated. The crew moved like clockwork, each trained to know that a single misstep in stealth operations could turn precision into peril. Hale reviewed the intercepted chatter. Enemy comms were buzzing, short, chaotic bursts of radio traffic suggesting confusion and perhaps fear. Yet amid the noise, a single phrase repeated too frequently to be ignored. "Escort incoming." They weren't done. "Contact bearing 070, reported Lynn. "Large displacement vessel. Running dark, no transponder, moving slow." Hale's jaw tightened. "Run acoustic profile." Seconds later, the result flashed on screen. It wasn't just any ship, it was the Nar al-Haq, a repurposed Yemeni frigate believed to be under Houthi control and equipped with Russian surplus weapons systems. Its presence meant only one thing: escalation. Back at Central Command in Bahrain, Rear Admiral Sims leaned forward at the video feed from Hale's comms link. "They're testing our response curve," she said. "Not just a hit and run. They're drawing us out. See how far they can push before we blink." "Then we don't blink," Hale responded. But holding position wasn't enough anymore. The bait had worked too well, and now the enemy was no longer hunting a ship. They were hunting a statement. If the USS Virginia stayed passive, the Houthis could salvage their narrative, claim the decoy was a genuine target, claim victory. That couldn't happen. The plan evolved. Hale ordered a low-drift reposition, silently maneuvering the sub to a trench line just east of the frigate's new path. From there, he would observe and record, but more importantly, he would wait for one miscalculation. In the world of modern naval warfare, surveillance was as powerful as firepower. He didn't need to fire again unless provoked. All he needed was the enemy to make the first aggressive move. Up above, the Reaper drone maintained a wide circle, silent and unblinking. Its optical camera caught the frigate's silhouette in the dusk light, its deck bristling with makeshift launchers and outdated radar. But one launcher, oddly modern and out of place, stood out. Lynn isolated the image, enhancing the structure. "That's not local," she whispered. "That's Russian. SA-22 derivative, maybe modified." If that system was active, it posed a serious threat, not to the submarine, but to everything above it. Allied planes, cargo ships, even commercial airliners flying through international corridors could be at risk. And if the Houthis used it, they would cross another line altogether. The tension ratcheted up not with noise, but with silence. The Nar al-Haq crept forward, not broadcasting, not responding to hails, ignoring maritime protocol. It wasn't fishing, it wasn't escorting, it was provoking. That's when the flash came. From 15,000 feet, the drone captured a brief, sharp bloom of light on the frigate's deck, electrical, not explosive. Then, moments later, a second. It wasn't an attack, it was activation. The radar system was powering on. Hale's voice came low but decisive. That's intent. Prep countermeasures. Hold torpedoes in standby. The crew didn't flinch. This was the knife's edge they trained for. Minutes where choices made the difference between deterrence and international headlines. Suddenly, over comms, another alert chimed. A new contact, fast-moving, low altitude, approaching from the north. It was a drone, but not theirs. The IFF marked it as unregistered. It was targeting the Reaper. "They're baiting us," Lynn muttered. "They want to take down our eye in the sky, blind us." Hale knew what that meant. If the drone went down, the cover story would write itself. The Houthis would claim they downed an attacking American system in their waters. It was propaganda fuel, and worse, it would mask their real intentions. He made the call. "Command, request remote transfer of Reaper control to secondary drone command. Reposition to shadow the Nar al-Haq. Let the intruder pass." The order went through. Moments later, the Reaper veered gently off its path, sidestepping the incoming drone by just enough to confuse its weak targeting system. The enemy drone passed by, unaware it had missed its chance. But the repositioning did more than preserve the surveillance. It allowed Hale to tighten the net. Now, directly beneath the Nar al-Haq, the USS Virginia rose slightly, its sensitive arrays soaking in the electronic signatures emanating from the frigate. Every burst, every pulse was logged, traced, and geolocated. Back in Bahrain, intelligence officers began constructing a real-time map of the ship's systems, its vulnerabilities, and, most importantly, its origin. Because one key fact was becoming unavoidable. This wasn't all local hardware. Someone had given the Houthis a new toy. And that opened the door to a far bigger conflict. The ocean had gone quiet again, but it wasn't peace. It was calculation. Beneath the dark waters, Commander Hale sat motionless in the command chair of the USS Virginia, watching a web of red and yellow lights flicker across his displays. The Nar al-Haq was still in motion above them, moving erratically, unpredictably, as if trying to provoke a reaction without delivering one itself. That ambiguity made it more dangerous than open aggression. Every minute that passed was a contest of nerves. Hale's orders were strict. Do not fire unless fired upon. But the rules of engagement didn't account for modern ambiguity. When an adversary uses civilian cover, mixes military assets with irregular tactics, and manipulates global perception as a weapon. Then came the shift. "New contact, high altitude," Lynn reported. "Signature matches a Russian-made A-50 mainstay. Surveillance aircraft." Hale didn't respond immediately. The arrival of a mainstay, Russia's airborne early warning and control system, was no small development. That kind of asset wasn't deployed for minor skirmishes. It was called in for coordinated operations. Another light blinked on the screen. This one was different. Deep blue. Steady. "Encrypted burst detected," said the signals officer. "Looks like high-frequency satellite link. It's coming from the Nar al-Haq. They're transmitting. Long range, directed east." "Russia," Hale muttered. It wasn't a question. Someone was watching, or more likely, orchestrating. Simultaneously, the Reaper drone relayed a new visual. On the stern deck of the frigate, 2 personnel had begun unpacking a cylindrical device, roughly the size of a human torso. Not standard armament. not naval ordnance. This was something else. Hale leaned in. Freeze it. Zoom. It was a submersible drone, autonomous, likely unarmed but equipped for surveillance and electronic warfare. If it deployed, it could map undersea cables, jam local systems, or worse, track the Virginia itself. The move crossed a line. Hale tapped into the encrypted uplink to Rear Admiral Sims. "We've got a subsurface drone about to deploy. If it enters the water, we lose the initiative. Recommend response. Non-lethal disruption." Sims hesitated. "Can it be done without escalation?" "We can hit it with a sonic shock. Blow out its sensors. No physical damage." "Do it." Within moments, the USS Virginia adjusted its angle ever so slightly. A specialized array extended forward, silent and unseen. The crew powered up the non-kinetic emitter, calibrated to a frequency that would disable sensitive electronics in a controlled area. The pulse fired. On the screen, the Reaper's camera caught the drone mid-deployment. Then, flash. Sparks erupted from the unit. Its handler leapt back in surprise. The drone convulsed, briefly hovered, then splashed into the water. Lifeless. The Nar al-Haq paused its movement. Radio chatter spiked, chaos without comprehension, but Hale wasn't done. "Let's give them a warning they'll understand. Surface to periscope depth. Activate mast lighting. Show the flag." It was a bold move. Stealth submarines almost never revealed their position. But this wasn't about hiding anymore. This was about deterrence, about reminding the adversary what lurked below. The Virginia rose slowly. Just beneath the surface, the periscope and communications mast emerged. A small LED beacon blinked in code. Morse, old but unmistakable. "Leave area immediately." The response came faster than expected. The Nar al-Haq turned. Its bow shifted southwest, moving away from the trench and out of the surveillance grid. The comms traffic shifted from aggressive to confused, then finally to quiet. No return fire, no launch. Just withdrawal. Hale exhaled. Inside the Virginia, the pressure eased just slightly. The men and women who had been on edge for days knew the confrontation had ended, at least for now. Back in Bahrain, analysts reviewed the recovered data. The submarine drone carried encrypted drives, but Hale's team had captured its signal protocol. Patterns emerged, coding not of Houthi origin, but Russian military telemetry, proof of foreign involvement, proof of escalation. Sims briefed the Pentagon. The message was clear. The line had been crossed, not in kinetic action, but in coordination. Proxies were now extensions of greater powers, and the seas, once governed by tradition and law, had become murky with manipulated conflict. For Commander Hale, the mission had turned from confrontation to vigilance. The Virginia continued to shadow the region, undetected again, its presence more legend than fact. The story would never make front-page news. No missiles had been fired, no casualties reported. Just a drone disabled and a ship turned away. But beneath that calm, a new kind of warfare had revealed itself. One where silence was more dangerous than sound, where patience was more powerful than missiles, and where submarines like the Virginia didn't just defend, they deterred. The deep would hold its secrets, for now.